I've been recommending to people that they watch Halo, the TV show, the new one. Been saying, check it out. When those who do the usual hating, kind of reviewers, they've laid off it. They made objections to it, having just looked at it the once and had their own kind of Halo headcanon. And they're staying off it. And it's a matter of, I think Angry Joe's watching it, and he's like, hey, hang on a minute, this is onto something. And it's like, so I'm putting it to people, if this is the story that 270 rewrites gives you, 270 rewrites, there's been 270 people who've done a rewrite of a potential script for a Halo movie or TV show. 270 people. So it's been no. And all of them to draw from the world of it, but not to just retell the game, to actually find the story in it, to find the angle to hit it at. 270 people have hit it. And then you hear, Spielberg's got involved, a deal's been done. They need to make money, they need something big, they need to push something that they see as being valuable as a potential. They need to bring one straight into the light. So it's like, right, we're making the Halo TV series. And it's like, I've followed Halo as a project to be made into a movie since Halo came out. Like, this would be a brilliant, once the story started to unfold as to what it was all about. Like, this would be brilliant. It's like, this is a better intellectual property by way of let's make movies than almost anything that's come before it, if this is your way you're selling it, because this is a good game. I mean, it's like, I won an Xbox at work for selling printers one Friday afternoon. So I had an Xbox and it says, here's an Xbox. I'm like, right, well, what do you get here? And it's like Xbox and a controller and nothing else, no games. I was like, it was a promotional gift. I'd won a promotion at work. Used to bring home all kinds of things like that. So on my way home, I goes to Asda and I buys one of only about 2 games out for it, Halo. So the first demonstration I got of the Xbox was playing Halo, which is what it's supposed to be. The Xbox was launched with a game, Halo. And they're like, we want to make something big here. We want to make something epic. We want to make a big thing. We want to create a big brand. We want to create a big association. And they did it. They did it. This is the thing, it's like, this, right? There's something about this. That's as much of the Halo music has been used in that TV show. That's as much. There's no musical cues from Halo's soundtrack in its television show. And do you know why? Well, too much of a distraction. Because it's got its own fanciful associations. Were used in the correct place, the Halo theme song, actually because of its actual, how it's configured in an emotional sense as to the fusion between the Gregorian choir and heaviest orchestral piece probably ever. And it's like, what do you think the soldiers play these days going into battle on the radio when they're keying themselves up to fight? There's been loads of songs that have fit this bill, but this one, it's like a war anthem. And it's like they've made a TV show and they've not used it. They used just that. Just a couple of bars of the... So what's going to actually happen is there's a few things that it's set up for to do if it's going to be a Halo TV show that absolutely pays off what it's got to pay in a one season sort of prequel to set up the character, to set up the story, to set up the situation. So it's like the challenge they've had is pretty vast because it's a matter of the story you have to tell. And I've known this for years. I'm like, Halo is one of the things where it's like, if anyone was to ever come to me and say, hey, would you like to collaborate on a writing or a television project? You know, right, so what do you think? What would you like to do? A dream come true? It'd be, can I work on Halo? Right, it would be. If it wasn't to make something original, if it was to adapt something that was already had all the pieces, because it's a tough job, isn't it? And it's like, no, I get this story. I can actually adapt this in a way that stays true to it and actually gets to its spirit. And you're like, well, what's the spirit of Halo? Right, if you want to understand the spirit of Halo, right, what you need to do is go back on YouTube and go and find a stream by Razorfist playing Halo Infinite. That's the spirit of Halo. Like what? Yeah, Razorfist. What's like Razorfist doing? He's playing Halo reasonably well because he's played it before, but he's new to a game, live on the internet, and at every stage of it he is generally hypercritical of the government. Like what? I thought, well, yeah, it's Razorfist. So he gets to playing Halo, and he's someone who's very sceptical about the government in real life and the competence of the government and the military and everything, and he's playing Halo. And when you get to playing Halo, you're pretty much on your own, but you're very much led to believe you're part of something much bigger, but you're not. And they're absolutely fucking useless. And the running gag when you're playing Halo is, thanks guys. The notion of reinforcements help. It's like, there is no plan. It's like these guys you work for are absolute dicks who've actually asked for this to happen. It's like, you've made yourself an easy target to be picked off by an advanced alien race because you are dicks. There's a hilarity to Halo as to that demo lines from War of the Worlds, the old H.G. Wells, when they said, "Is there people out in the wider universe who might look at planet Earth and say, we could take this place in a heartbeat? These people are dumb. We could take this planet." And if there's a suspicion I have, you see, which is a hilarious suspicion, but it's the actual, in essence, this is the thing, it's like, Halo's sort of central premise to exist as a intellectual property is what I believe to be true of the universe. So it's quite an advanced node of thinking as to say, if we are an intelligence, and we are basically we're governed by the same universal forces as every other intelligence. There's no changing the laws of physics just because it's a different planet. It's like, if those who've got the intelligence to do what we've done, So don't you think they may be superstitious too? Do you not think that they may have also, in collectivizing to become advanced, adopted a underlying framework that make it possible for them to be religious fanatics like we've got? It's like, what if we're all under the same God? What? Yeah, and let's see, the rules of biology by way of corruption and things like that, maybe they're true for them as well. What? It's like, yeah, they might see us as being sexually immoral. What? Yeah. What if there's other races out in the universe that have got the law as given by Moses as well? Because it makes sense. Alien race come along and say, humans, these people need to be wiped out. Why? Because they think they're right when God knows they're wrong. And we can never convince them. And the only way that these people will fucking learn and change their ways is if we take the fucking sword to them. So it's like the eradication and enslavement and be seen as God's work through a black and white moral framework of the religious fanatic. You have to remember Halo as well was made at the turn of the last century. So it'd be a question that was being asked was fucking idiot liberals trying to make sense of religious fanaticism, not recognising actually the truth of it being that the religious fanaticism in the hands of the right person is just a weapon. And some of them getting that it's just a weapon, then others trying to then enter the mind of those who believe and getting lost in there. So then it becomes a question of, does God exist? Well, if God doesn't exist, they're all here for nothing. But try telling them that. You think it's going to get you anywhere? Oh, well, God's not real anyway. It's real enough to us and we've come to kill you. And they call themselves the Covenant. Now, there's something about Halo that's front and centre in the TV show as to where John identifies by 117 at all times. And it's like, why is he John 117? He says, well, John 117 as a Bible passage is really elegant. It's like it's the most condensed mini version of the covenant. Our covenant. Actual covenant. It's like, the law was brought to you by Moses. And Jesus showed you. And what's next? And what's next is John 117. And it's like he was a weapon created to take out superstitious human beings. The thing is, they have to build, in getting Halo right for TV, they have to build a universe as to where, right, degradation, you know, I say when a society's really suffering, it's something you see in Dune as well, where they believe in Muad'Dib and the Kwisatz Haderach and all that sort of stuff, is in misery, trauma and misery, it entrenches itself. And over a long enough period of time, what we would call a mental health crisis once upon a time would have been called a crisis of spirit. As to where the more, as we would say, like personality disordered, and when you do a checklist, it's like, listen to that person speak, and they're often mystics off in the clouds. And Halo is a reflection of that. They don't call their mental illness crisis a mental illness crisis. They call it mystical psychic, and they're just crazy. Just the same as our mouthing off mystical psychic people. They're crazy, but it's like it doesn't mean that they're always wrong. You do wrong to discard them. Because it's a matter of that thing that they've got, where they're mystical and crazy, the opponents, the Covenant, they can tap into that and they can use that. They can actually use that. Because everything they are is based upon tapping into that as religion, as focus, as unification, as goal. So it's like, oh yeah, they find the most psychic humans and take them away and experiment on them and try to get them to open these ancient holy relics made by whoever the people who created humanity and them were. And certain human beings touch them and it has an effect on them as to where it's able to basically touch their soul just for a second, and they feel something that they've never felt, or felt something that they haven't felt for a very, very, very long time, and that would be what it was to be a child and safe. And that causes like total recall in these certain people who were able to touch these artifacts and make them light up. So it's like Sword in the Stone, isn't it? It's King Arthur. But this is much darker, because it's like these people are fucked up people. These people have been fucking used, raped, fucking brutalized, like seen their families killed. So they're out there crazy, traumatized. There's nothing to be done for the mystical side in Halo. And it's like your enemy, the Covenant, they are them in control. They are them in power. So this is a world of make-believe, but these make-believe fucking crazy bastards have got weapons that they really don't even, they don't strike me as they even understand how they work. Well, they work. Oh, it works as if by magic. The societies that make up the Covenant have once upon a time been completely different societies, and their entire culture have collapsed into one fanatic religion. They've been consumed like the Borg. And it's like that hellhole of that unification, and they want the end of all life. They want to destroy everything. You know, we need this to end. We're a death cult. We want the end of the galaxy. We want to destroy everything. We want to all meet in heaven immediately and be proven right. They're a doomsday cult that have discovered that those who created the universe have put an off switch in the system. And have, like, are long since dead and dormant, gone. There's no one to turn the key, to turn on the machine that destroys it all. And then millions of years pass, billions of years pass, and some fucking arsehole, like, ends always justified the means for the last 100 generations type Earth government decide they need better soldiers to do this job of fucking murdering for them. Better soldiers. They need one that's so powerful, so effective, that he himself just becomes the boogeyman to every single one of our enemies. People messing with our stuff, people questioning our power, people fucking with our shit. It's like we're creating an abomination, a sick purifier from the deepest of legend as to where Jesus comes back to destroy you in this version of the story, bitch. John 1:17. He was never made to fight the covenant. He was meant to enforce it, impose it, and become a demon in the minds of superstitious people. The last thing you ever see, the Master Chief. It's like, that's what they created, and it's a working system. But it'd be like, when you've messed around with his DNA so much as a little kid, you've done all kinds of experiments on him, trying to make him perfect, trying to make him perfect, trying to make it perfect. It's like you have accidentally or somehow by fluke of nature crossed a line. And the line you've crossed is you've created a god. And in creating a god, you've created a creature that can touch those ancient relics and bring them to life. Because they recognize that he's one of them. So it's like you play Halo and it's like post-apocalypse, all of it. It's like once upon a time, whichever side we were on seemed to think they held this place, didn't they? And it's smashed. And billions are already dead at the hands of the Covenant. Billions. You don't see no civvies in Halo. I always say that when I play it with my nephew. You never see any civvies, do you, in Halo? I wonder what happened to all of them. And it's a snigger, isn't it? We're there, we kind of get this story. So what is this we're looking at here as to you're playing it, as to where you're fighting your way through a deserted city that's full of the Covenant, and it's like, where's all the people gone? Oh, it's like, yeah, the people are already dead. It's like we're the remnant of humanity here fighting against these fucking guys. There's just us. It's like the evil as a species that they'd done upon their own had actually awakened forces in the universe to see that mankind be destroyed. It's like, that's a big story, isn't it, John? And it's like, yeah, and to be able to find that story, because it's a good one, to be able to find that huge, well, as to I've just talked a bit of an epic, to be able to put that on the paper, on the page, at the same time as be true to its origins, its worlds, and it not become Megaforce, it not become the A-Team, and it be as deep as it needs to be, but sends out that clear signal as to flashback. It's a story about, they found the story about the little boy who was kidnapped, and he was groomed, kidnapped, and then experimented on and turned into a machine. That's what they found. And I'm like, well done, you get it. You know how to tell this story. So it's like, when they start telling it as that, I'm like, 270 people have rewritten this script. It's like, in my mind, I've written it too, and it's like, what's it like in yours? It's like that show. It's like the government are dicks. It's like these science people don't know when to stop, go too far, and then can always justify their actions giving it this. I did it for something bigger. I did it for all of us. I did it for the survival of mankind. And it's like, no. You pushed and pushed and pushed, trying to be God. You created a God, and then you pat yourself on the back when you're able to control one. You unleashed superstitious forces as weapons on your own people, and look what you've done. experimenting on people. You pretend it's about law and order when half of the human population of the old galaxy in Halo is like enslaved labourers in distant, vicious planets. But hey, you're in charge. Everything's okay for you. You can say you're in charge. It's like, yeah, we've got a military and a police force, and it's like, yeah, but it's just all about looking like you're in charge, looking like you've got strength, looking like you've got power. And it's like, when an alien intelligence is basically driven by like superstition, it's like you're giving them a lot of signals as to say that you ain't prepared for a fight. You just think you are, and it makes you the most vulnerable prey that you can imagine. And it's like, if that TV show actually goes ahead with apocalypse at the end of the first at the end of the first season, like Fall of Reach, it's like everything before it pays off, because it can pull the rug and destroy that terrible fucking organisation that I complain about, Razorfist complains about, the UNSC, that fucking idiot government who created you work for, needs to go. It's like, hey, guys, when we finish killing these alien fucks, I think we need to sort this government out we've got, don't you? Don't you think we need to find out who's responsible for getting us in this shit in the first place? And it's like, there never seems to be time in the game. It always moves on to another fucking catastrophe. But it's like, we ain't got no covenant to fight, but I tell you what, we're pretty much up against it like the UNSC. That's the thing people don't like in that TV show, that there is a third faction that needs to be in there for the thing to work, for the story to work, for it to be able to bring together different like future MacGuffins. It's like, it needs that third faction, it needs that independent human pirate faction. It has to have that for world building, for scale, for scope, for size. It has to have that, because it's like, I think there's probably plenty of people in the imaginary realm of the Halo universe that are as deeply dissatisfied with the failures of government as they are. Oh yeah, it's like, we can relate to those people. And what are they? They're pioneers. They've decided to try to strike out on their own, but wherever they go, the government follows them and wants to tax them. And what does that mean? It's like, oh well, they turn up with a force of arms and say, pay up, you need all these licenses, where's your paperwork, do you own this? They shake them down. It's just what government is. Would we protect you? But they do actually observe a duty of care, again, for the people of like all persuasions. They do observe a duty of care against the Covenant. Why? Well, the only thing that's stopping the Covenant from wiping out humanity is that they don't know where they are. What? Yeah. It's like, it's already set up. There was a scene where they've introduced another character called Maquis, who's like another version of the Master Chief, but she's been created sort of naturally. She is a full-on traumatized, brainless crackpot that's been rescued from a slave pit. And it's like, she's been educated by the Covenant and because she can access the relics, they can't. She's a holy person to them. She's treasure, blessed one. She's their anointed one. And her advantage is she speaks English with a slight Irish accent. Not knocking her, but yeah, she's got a slight Irish accent. But I don't mind, because I think she's quite a good actress. She was very good in The Last Kingdom, in a very similar role, playing a mystic or magical person. It's like she's got that looking off into the distance, acting at nothing thing. It's like she's earned that gig to play that mystic in that Halo show. She's earned the gig. There's creepy things about Natasha McElhone, right, who plays Halsey. Now, Natasha is an extremely attractive woman and has been around for, let's say, probably 25 years as an actress, but she's one of them as to where the audience age of sort of Halo, going to be my age, really, of people who've, like, you know, my age and younger. Her portraying the primary school teacher type groomer, that's really uncanny. That now she's at the stage of her life as to where she's like 50 something, but she's still really pretty. It'd be a matter of that as to Mummy. There's the dynamics of the Master Chief being someone who's been groomed and then controlled by a female predator who sees him as being a very promising weapon system. It's like there's something altogether wrong, and it feels wrong, and it's like you get to watching it and it's like, this bitch is capable of anything, and she plays it like always got an excuse, always got an excuse, always got an excuse, brilliantly. It's like, watch that. It's like, because if they get it right, if they pull the rug correctly, because it's had 270 rewrites, if they pull the rug correctly, at the end of series 1 of Halo, the whole fucking universe is in flames. Like, Jesus. It's like, if you think that Battlestar Galactica was a thing where it's like, oh, the colonies have been destroyed, that you don't kind of get to see. It's like, when the Covenant eventually strike, like in Force, it's like, that's like doomsday scenario, the likes of which you know, story-wise, is like, oh, how far can they take a full, how far can the special effects world take on the challenge of full-scale Covenant attack, full-scale Covenant invasion. So we ain't seen that. We ain't seen that in where it's. We've seen things like Independence Day, but that's just shit turns up. But it'd be a matter of the story of the see, there's a thing in Halo. It's like there's been a big battle before Halo, there's been a great big fight, and as it goes on, there's been a big fight between the forces of humanity and the forces of the Covenant, and both sides fire weapons that hurt each other. And it's like the UNSC, or like the human side, has been defeated, and there's just remnants of them scattered all over the place. But the losses taken by the other side have been pretty extreme as well. So it's like they fight themselves to mutual annihilation practically. Win Pyrrhic victories, won it, but lost heavy winning it. So it's like, to take that show there into like, this place has been fucking nuked to bits. To take the show there would be fucking good. That would be something worth telling. There's 100 different ways you could take it. But the shit has got to hit the fan. We have to believe and understand that the Earth government are fucking dicks. We have to pick up that, you know, the diversity hire president is just that. And she's going to fail and she's going to die and everything's going to go to shit. And the only people left who can sort it out. And there's your story. Then at that stage of the game, you need them characters you set up, because as it goes, they're fixing to kill everyone real soon.